Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and much appreciated you guys checking today's video out and spending some time with me. And we're going to be talking about big glide baits, guys. This is probably the number one lure that you can catch a big bass on. The springtime of the year is a great time to fish. It's actually spring and fall are the best two times. So today we're going to give you guys a little foundational tutorial on how to catch them on it. If you guys have never caught one on a glide bait, and I would venture to say, guys, that most bass anglers have never caught a bass on a glide bait, and there's reasons why that. So we're going to sort of get into that, and hopefully it'll get you guys a good bite over the next year or so. Also, guys, just wanted to go over two quick housekeeping tips before we get started here. Want to let everybody know about the Get Ready for Spring sale that Glidebait has on my RB2 and RB3 series sunglasses. Right now, you can get them at 30% off by going to the Glidebait website. I'll put the link in the description. You guys can get them there, and also 30% off on all the prescription glasses too. So you guys get that there. And also, one other quick thing, guys, please check out my Fish the Moment lake map breakdowns. I'll put the link in the description there. This is a great resource to learn more about your favorite lake, and really appreciate all the support there. Okay, these big glide baits, this has sort of been the deal over the last 4 or 5 years, ever since they came on the scene. Now, glide baits, they've been around in some form for quite a few years. You know, they started out, the whole thing started with the Bastric swim bait about 15 years ago. And then a lot of people started making these big glide baits by hand. They carved them out by hand. And eventually some of the companies like Megabass here started producing them, you know, just through the manufacturing process. But glide baits are basically baits that look like big bluegill, looks like big shad. They range anywhere between, 5 inches up to over 10 inches long, just depending upon where you're at. So what I want to do today is I want to give you guys some basic foundations on how to catch a bass on a glide bait and how to choose the right glide bait. And there's a lot of myths and misconceptions about it we're going to clarify today. Also, guys, I will link my glide bait link in the description. If you get my Tackle Warehouse link, if you guys want to get you a few glide baits to try the technique out, if you use that link, it's a good way to get you some and support the channel too. So link in the description there. Okay, the first thing about glide baits you need to realize once you start fishing them is it requires an attitude adjustment. You have to tell yourself that you're not going to get many bites, because you're not going to get many bites. It's like if you get a bunch of bites on a glide bait, a big glide bait, you're probably fishing in some private farm pond or somewhere, because if you fish them on public lakes, they're hard to get bit on. If you get 3 bites in one day on a big glide bait, consider yourself that's a good day. And if you actually catch 1 out of those 3, that's a really good day, because one of the things about glide baits, in addition to the fact that you have to accept the fact you're not going to get a lot of bites, you also have to accept a lot of the fact that you're going to see fish follow the bait and not get them to bite. This is what glide baits are famous for, guys. When these big things, when you're reeling these things through the water, they get the attention of bass, all sizes of bass, big bass, little bass. And probably the most common thing that happens, you're working this glide bait along, through the water like that. All of a sudden, here comes this 4 or 5 pound bass looking at it, and they look at it and they get close to it, and then they just swim off like that. Very seldom will they hit the thing, but there's some things that I'm going to, tips and advice I'm going to give you to actually get them, how to get them to commit to it once they do get close to it. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about what you have to have for this to work, and equipment and everything. Then we'll talk about the areas. Number one, you have to have a lake that has good fish in it. If you have a lake that just has a bunch of dinks in it, you're not going to catch many on a big glide bait. You have to have a lake that has a decent quality, a decent amount of like 4 pound class fish in it. That's why California, Texas, and Florida are the 3 big glide bait lakes. So most glide bait fish are caught in those 3 lakes. A few, throughout the rest of the country under the right conditions, but that's why, is because they're after big bass. Second with that, you have to have the right conditions. Now, to me, the best conditions for big glide bait fishing are in the spring of the year, usually when that water temperature is anywhere between, say, 55 to 65 degrees, and then again in the fall time of the year, usually October or November. It's very difficult, in my experience, to get a bite on a glide bait in the winter or the summer. It's a spring and fall type of a deal. Next with that, you have to have the right type of day. The best glide bait day is a cloudy, windy, rainy type day. That's when you're going to get your most bites on it. It's like, this is not a lure that you want to throw on like bright, sunny, calm conditions. They need to have that low light, nasty weather condition to activate those fish and get them in the right mood and the right frame of mind to actually bite this thing. And the next, with the water clarity. Water clarity for a big glide bait, there's sort of a window that I have found, and that window is usually between, like, say, 3 to 6 foot. 3 to 6 foot visibility, low light day, wind, clouds, rain, perfect scenario. So if you said, what is the perfect deal? You know, give me perfect scenario. It would be fishing when the water temperatures is in the 60s. You know, again, 3 to 5 foot of visibility, nasty cloudy day. That's what you're going to want to have with that. And also, guys, you have to have specialized equipment with these things depending upon how big they are. Now, for a 6 or 7 inch glide bait here, like this Megabass iSlide, you can throw this thing on a flipping stick, just a regular flipping stick. I use 25-pound test Seagar and Vizex line for all my big glide baits. But if you get anything bigger than this, let's say, for example, you get one of these big honking ones here, like the big 10-inch iSlide. This bait weighs 6 ounces, guys. This bait right here is the exact bait that Oliver and I won the Big Bass Bash up at Lake of the Ozarks on this exact bait right here a few years ago. But on a 6-ounce bait like this, you got to have an extra heavy action 8-foot rod with it, 25 to 30-pound test line with it. So if you try to cast like a 6-inch glide bait on a flipping stick, it feels like it's going to break your rod because it's so heavy. So make sure you have the appropriate tackle when you fish it. The next thing, and I want to talk a little bit about how to work it, and then we're going to talk about the areas, is how you work a glide bait and how to generate a strike. When you reel a glide bait through the water, it naturally just swims in an S pattern like this. So one of the things that you want to do with your glide bait, work it like a jerk bait. So when you work it like a jerk, like boom, 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 it goes just like that. It's more of a darting action, and that triggers those strikes. Most important, guys, now this is probably, if you can get one tip out of this whole video, this is what it is. When you get one of those followers, you're working your jerk bait through the water like this, you see one follow it like that, swimming up to it. When they start following it, speed that thing up. Like, just go boo, 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 boo. Just try to get it out of there as quick as possible, because if you let them get too good of a look at it, they're never going to hit it because it's too big. So work that thing really fast and really hard, and to the point of which they have to make a decision. It's like they can't hesitate. They either have to go out and grab it or swim away from it. Now, that's one thing that I have figured out that will trigger the strike more than anything else. Now, the areas you want to fish a glide bait in my opinion, you have to have some water depth underneath the glide bait. It's like a glide bait is not a good lure to throw up into shallow water expecting those fish to come horizontally on it. You need to have these fish coming vertical on it. So my favorite place to fish a glide bait is like over deeper points, over steeper banks, over the top of deeper grass beds, on bluff banks, some places where the water's deep enough where when you're working that bait, they can come up on the bait. It seems like to me that's what you have to have. I've never caught many fish on a big glide bait if the water, depth is like under 5 foot very much. Most of the time, my glide bait is over, say, 5 to 15 feet of water when the strike occurs on it. So that's an important element with that. And like I said, colors and profiles, there's so many different ones, guys. When you look at that Tackle Warehouse link, you'll see there's just tons of them, and they're all good. Just try to say something that sort of matches the bait fish or forage that you have in the lake you fish. There's glide baits that look like crappie. They got them looking like bluegills. They make about anything you want to match the hat. So that's just an overall foundation, guys. Just a real quick, simple foundation. It'll get you guys started, and I hope it helps you guys catch a big one. We'll talk later.